A very good morning to one and all. I welcome you all to this third session in the series of Nivesh Pathshala. This session being a bit technical as well as fundamental, since we are going to cover the basics of fundamental and technical analysis vis-a-vis stock picking. हम लोग सब मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट करना चाहते हैं, कुछ लोग ऑब्वियसली मार्केट में इन्वेस्टर्स हैं, बट सबके दिमाग में ये सवाल आते रहता है कि स्टॉक्स जब पिक करने की बात आती है तो क्या चीज़ें हैं, क्या पैरामीटर्स हैं जिसको देखें जिससे ये समझ में आए कि स्टॉक जो है अब परचेज करना चाहिए. बहुत बार ये दुविधा होती है कि परचेज कर लिया तो रखना चाहिए कि एग्जिट करना चाहिए, एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. बहुत सारे सवाल आते रहेंगे और आज ये जो सेशन है यहाँ से आगे हम लोग कोशिश करेंगे कि बेसिक्स जो है आज शुरू करें और ग्रेजुअली इसका लेवल बढ़ाते बढ़ाते आप लोगों के अंडरस्टैंडिंग को चेक करते करते इसको कंप्लीट करें. एंड फॉर दिस सेशन वी हैव विद अस आवर एवरग्रीन स्पीकर Mr. Anuj Bharjate, and along with him we have two of the technical analysts from his team, Mr. Pratik and Mr. Mangesh. So I think we'll start with fundamentals first, because जब fundamentals समझ में आते हैं तो किसी भी इन्वेस्टर को रादर fundamentals पहले चेक करने चाहिए, technicals बाद में, because he is an investor not a trader. अगर ट्रेडर की बात करें तो डेफिनेटली टेक्निकल्स पे ज़्यादा जोर होता है. सो सर आई रिक्वेस्ट यू टू प्लीज़ कम फॉरवर्ड एंड टेक द सेशन फॉरवर्ड, एंड आपके जो भी सवाल रहेंगे आई थिंक ड्यूरिंग द सेशन यू कैन आस्क एंड यू कैन कीप से बल्क ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस एट द एंड ऑफ द सेशन.
Good morning to all of you. I see a lot of faces who have been investors and who are investors, and happy to see repetitive faces also. थोड़ा बहुत जो आप लोग को आइडिया है, whether because you are a CA or an investor, that fundamental analysis is an ocean. I mean, it can't be covered in 1 hour. It's as good as doing PhD, and you will learn the process over a period of time. It'll take years to actually finally develop that skill of identifying the right stock at a fast pace. You see, that is what is very relevant, because markets are very dynamic and they keep on moving here and there. And if you take 6 months to complete your study on a particular industry or a stock, the entire exercise may be futile. It will be of great academic interest, but the price would have gone there, or things must have changed fundamentally by the time you complete your study, and you may feel that now it is not worthwhile looking at that stock. So what is important is, first, all the skills you need to develop. What are the parameters required, basic parameters, and over a period of time you will build pace. You see, when I started my career 25 years back, probably it took me 2 days, 3 days of thorough study to actually finally conclude whether I should buy or not an X stock. Today, probably in first 5 minutes, I start getting a feeling that I need to check 1, 2, 3 these points, and if I am clear with these points, I will go and buy it. It is not that God has given me this skill. It is just over a period of time, with experience and with understanding. It is as good as, you know, if we are able to start the technical session also today, this will be the first time you will see the graph, the chart. And you may take actually 5 to 10 minutes to absorb what that chart is depicting. And after 1 year, you will need 5 seconds. The moment you see that graph, you know whether the signals are bullish or bearish, or there is something more you need to know. So what we will do is, with the help of my team, Pratik Mukazdar is who looks into the fundamental analysis in Bharjate, and we have Mangesh here, who's a chartist, Both of them are doing extremely well as far as their identification study is concerned, and they are my arms, legs, eyes, and no, you can say ears. We will try and touch upon the basics where you should start focusing while you are trying to identify a stock to be invested in. And when I say basic, it means two things: that we may not cover the extensive parameters which are required at the higher research level, point one. Point two, the parameters which we will cover today, the time may not permit us to go into extreme depth. But certainly you will become aware of in which direction we should move when we are trying to analyze the fundamentals of a stock, industry or economy. So are we okay with this? And if in case we are able to generate more interest, we will take few more sessions on fundamental as well as technical analysis to actually create great stock pickers from the audience. And 6 months down the line when we meet, probably I will start taking recommendations from you what to do and what not to do. So that will be the attempt. I request Prateek to start with his presentation. Preferably we would like to go for question answer session at the end of the session, but if in case there are points which will help in understanding particular slides, you may come up with the questions in between also. Prateek.
So, good morning everybody. First of all, thanks Anuj sir for this wonderful introduction. So, आज का हमारा topic है Introduction of Fundamental and Technical Analysis. So, let's start with the Fundamental Analysis, the introduction. तो इस discussion को हम काफ़ी interactive रखते हैं and मैं आपसे question पूछना चाहता हूँ कि Fundamental Analysis, what do you think when the word strikes Fundamental Analysis? Anyone with their opinion or thought? हाँ, yes. और कोई opinion? Yes, yes. So basically, fundamental analysis is. Yes.
Funda of not becoming mental when you are an investor in stock market.
So what is fundamental analysis? It is basically the cornerstone of investing. Because of fundamental analysis, we come to a conclusion whether to buy a stock or not. Fundamental analysis basically consists of analyzing the financial statements, the management, the background, the business of the company, and whatever we can know about the company in depth, in detail, and looking at the financial statements and the economic outlook as well. So fundamental analysis में basically दो approaches रहते हैं. One is the top-down approach and the other one is bottoms-up approach. So let's go into the detail. So top-down approach is basically just think like an FI है कि आप लोग के पास बहुत global allocation है पैसे का and you have countries to select कि मुझे किस country में पैसे डालना है, तो आप किस तरीके से analysis करेंगे. So first you will select the economy कि which economy looks good, which economy is viable, has favorable fundamentals for growth, sustained period of growth. Once you have identified the economy as a whole, then we come to the industry कि इस economy के XYZ characteristics क्या है और इस characteristics को favor करने वाले, इससे benefit करने वाली कौन सी industries हो सकती है. And then finally, once the economy is selected, the industry is selected, then we come down to the company and उसका detailed analysis हम करते हैं by meeting the management's fundamental analysis, cash flows, this, that, etc. तो इस तरीके से top down approach काम करती है with the focus on economy, industry and then the company. तो अब ये तीनों फैक्टर्स को हम थोड़ा और डिटेल में देखते हैं. सो द नंबर वन इज इकोनॉमिक एनालिसिस. तो व्हेन वी लुक एट एन इकोनॉमी, क्या फैक्टर्स हम देख सकते हैं? सो एनी फैक्टर्स जो आप लोग के ध्यान में आता हो वो प्लीज शेयर करें. जीडीपी, यस. तो इसके अलावा इसके पॉइंट ये पॉइंट्स के सो बेसिकली whenever we are looking at a country an economy we look उसके बेसिक फैक्टर्स कि वो क्या जीडीपी उस इकोनॉमी की है, क्या ग्रोथ रेट वो जीडीपी सस्टेन कर सकती है, उसका पॉलिटिकल स्टेबिलिटी कैसा है, गवर्नमेंट कैसी है उसकी, इंटरेस्ट रेट्स कैसे हैं, आर इंटरेस्ट रेट्स डिक्लाइनिंग और इंटरेस्ट रेट्स कैन बी इन एन अपवर्ड ट्रेजेक्ट्री, उसका करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट कैसा है, उसका फिजिकल अकाउंट डेफिसिट कैसा है, करेंसी उसकी कैसी बिहेव कर रही है. से फॉर दिस एग्जाम्पल हम इंडिया को कंसिडर करते हैं. इंडिया इज अ $2 trillion इकोनॉमी, one of the fastest growing economies in the world, growing at 7 to 8% on an average. Inflation structurally is heading lower in India. 2-3 years back the average inflation was 7.5%, but because of the consistent efforts of our RBI now we are coming down to below 6%. So economy, GDP is growing, inflation is coming down. As a result the interest rates are also heading lower. Currency, to just share a fact with you, our currency has outperformed each and every currency of the emerging markets. It has been the strongest currency emerging markets mein. So we have a strong currency thanks to the RBI. We have a wonderful government which is a majority government and working 24/7 for the development of country, and favorable demographics. We have a young population, a country full of young population which has a lot of aspirations, and thus this factor will also help the economy to grow. So ये checklist economy के लिए हम use कर सकते हैं, and just I use the example of India. So ये factors हमारे पास है. तो now let's see कौन से sectors इस economy में benefit कर सकते हैं. So just we have discussed कि economy में कौन से factors अच्छा कर सकते हैं. तो I would like some sectors from the audience की आपको क्या लगता है कि कौन से sectors अच्छा कर सकते हैं. Infrastructure, yes. Power, pharma, consumption. सर आपने क्या बोला? Okay, so consumption, power, infrastructure, pharma. So consumption is a very predominant theme as far as India goes. We are likely to double our GDP in the next 10 years. As a result, the discretionary spend in the hands of the retail consumer would be quite big compared to what he had in the past. So consumption एक theme है जिस पे हम focus कर सकते हैं. And second, इतना consumption होने वाला है, इतना development होने वाला है, तो you will also need infrastructure. So let's focus these two sectors. जो industry analysis में हम cover कर सकते हैं. Say for example, auto sector. Since discretionary income is likely to grow, so there will be a point where the consumer is going to shift from the two-wheelers or the lower-end cars to higher-end cars. India में आज first car buyers की संख्या सबसे ज़्यादा है compared to the world. We are 10-15 years behind China in terms of consumption. So we are currently doing 2 million cars per annum in terms of sales. And China was also doing 15 years back to 2 million cars. After this growth, China is at 20 million cars. China is at 20 million cars per annum. We are still at 2 million, taking into consideration the GDP level. And the value of the car, the average car is like a Maruti Swift or a Maruti Wagon-R. Whereas in China, it was more like of a Corolla. So if you see the gap which we have, it's the opportunity for the entire sector is 15x what we are currently having. Secondly, coming to infrastructure sector, if roads are to be built, highways are to be built, bridges are to be built, dams are to be constructed, then you will need a lot of cement. So to play the infrastructure sector, cement is also a very good structural play which will have a good demand over the long term. So we have identified two industries. One is auto and the other is cement. So this is how, once we have selected the economy, discussed its characteristics, we have come down to the industry, and which from that industry we will come to which stocks we have to discuss. So let's come to the companies. एक कंपनी सिलेक्ट करते समय हम क्या फैक्टर्स कंसिडर कर सकते हैं? आई वुड रिक्वेस्ट ऑडियंस टू शेयर सम थॉट्स. यस. So while looking after a company, we have to look at it's the competitive advantage of the company. वो company उसके sector में कितना आगे है, कितना पीछे है, उसके strengths क्या है, उसके weaknesses क्या है, वो management कैसा है, is the management good, is the management bullish in the business itself, is the promoter continuously trying to increase its stakes, वो कहीं insider trading में तो involved नहीं है, company के financial ratios बहुत favorable है, balance sheet is continuously strengthening, डेट इज एट रीजनेबल लेवल्स. तो ये कुछ फैक्टर्स है जो हम एक कंपनी के एनालिसिस में कंसिडर करेंगे. सो टू समराइज द टॉप डाउन स्टॉक सिलेक्शन और द टॉप डाउन वे ऑफ फंडामेंटल एनालिसिस इज, once we have selected the economy, which economy we have to invest, study the characteristics of that economy, then come to the industry, look at the favorable circumstances, which industry has the favorable circumstances given the economic scenario, and then come down to that stock. So this is how top-down analysis goes. Now let's see the other side of the picture, that is bottoms up. Bottoms up is the exact opposite of top-down. Where you go economy, industry, company, in bottoms up you go company, industry and economy. Generally retail investors, stock pickers and everyone uses this bottoms up stock selection process because the chance of generating the alpha, that is outperformance over the benchmark, is quite high, since individual companies make a difference to an investor's portfolio. So the primary focus is in the companies, कि कौन सी कंपनी खरीदना है, किस कंपनी कौन से मार्केट कैप पे अवेलेबल है, क्या वैल्यूएशंस है, क्या बिजनेस कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस है उस कंपनी की, डिमांड ड्राइवर्स क्या हो सकते हैं वो कंपनी के, एंड मेनली द मेन crux of this stock picking is which has a longer term growth potential. If the company continues to grow for a longer term, we as shareholders are definitely going to benefit as far as the stock price goes. So to summarize this effort of bottom up stock picking, there are primarily three parts of it is divided into three parts, the bottom up stock picking. One is the value investing, second is the growth investing, and third is the hybrid of both, that is growth at reasonable price. So let's come to value investing. So value investing, ये नाम से क्या आप लोग के thought में आता है? I want this to be very interactive, so please be open and interact करें. Value investing कहीं सुना है, पढ़ा है? Yes, yes, exactly. So value investing is basically the investment strategy where stocks जो हम select करते हैं, they are trading at deep discounts to their intrinsic value. Now what is intrinsic value? That intrinsic value may be the replacement cost of the company. We know that this company, say for a company like Hindalco, which is such a known metal company, trading at a discount to its previous valuations, and for some reason the market has priced in irrationality. Market has gone so negative that this company is available just for free, for example. In value investing also, you will also find some companies in which the market cap was below the cash on the books of the company. So this is an example of value investing. In 2007, I remember Eicher Motors had cash greater than its market cap. So this is a small example of value investing. So coming to current scenario, metal sector in 2016, early 2016, when the commodity prices were crashing and metal prices were at multi-year lows, and metal stocks were also crashing the same way. So I have an example of Vedanta, which was available at a market cap of 16,000 crores, broadly 16,000 crores. It had fixed assets worth 50,000 crores and cash of something what 70,000 crores. So this was the value which Vedanta had, and the price was 60-70 rupees. Since then, Vedanta has become a four-bagger. Price is close to 250 rupees, and this is where the value was. Vedanta was available at single-digit PE multiple. Market has priced in a lot of irrationality in terms of pessimism. Market continuously goes through cycles of extreme optimism, euphoria, and pessimism and fear. So metals was a sector that was going through the fear kind of phase in 2016. And if you see, वैल्यू इन्वेस्टिंग में और एक हमारा इंटेंशन रहता है कि हमें बहुत अच्छी हाई क्लास क्वालिटी कंपनीज नहीं खरीदने पे फोकस रहता है. कंपनी ओके रहे लेकिन एट वेरी डिस्ट्रेस्ड वैल्यूएशंस, एज इफ ऑलमोस्ट इट इज अवेलेबल फॉर फ्री. सो ओके कंपनीज एट वेरी गुड प्राइस. जनरली कमोडिटी बिजनेस इज अ cyclical business. So but cyclicality at what price, that is important. अगर we know कि वेदांता is a very big metal player, it's a giant and available at such distressed valuation, then it takes some analysis and then some financial crunching, number crunching to pick the stock. So this is how value investing goes, कि okay companies at good price, and sometimes value investing may also be synchronized with contrarian investing. If you see, last year no one was talking about commodities. Everyone was running away from commodities. So when the whole market is shouting that we don't want to buy commodities, they are in dark future, there is demand supply, there is too much demand, there is too much supply. So then we have to pick up our paper pen, the balance sheet of the company, and then see कि boss actual में position क्या है, and then we can take a call. Obviously a contrarian bet has to be backed by a good data analysis, and as a result we can benefit from this. So this is how value investing goes. Another more example is our Indian stock market in 2013. Market was coming down every day. Currency was depreciating like anything. Current account deficit was high. Inflation was high. At that time, market was trading at a P multiple of 12 times. Nifty was at 12 times. So, जिस index, जो country का index which is the fastest growing economy in the world, जिसका average P multiple has been 15 to 16 times for the past 15 years, is available at a P multiple of just 12. So there's a valuation comfort which we have, and that is why the term value investing is there. कि valuations comfortable होना चाहिए, it should be extremely comfortable, कि you don't have much to lose. So value investing is where you have high margins of safety. You cannot go wrong. Even if you go wrong for a moment, you are going to lose 10-20%, nothing more than that. So this is how value investing is. Now next, let us come to growth investing. So growth investing में focus is primarily on fast growing companies which are growing at a higher pace than that of the sector. Say for example, I have considered the NBFC sector here. Non-banking financial companies like Manappuram, Bajaj Finance, all the housing finance companies, they are as an industry, they are growing at 20 to 30%, whereas some of the companies are doubling their profits every year. So growth investing में क्या होता है? You can buy okay companies but which are high on growth, and for that growth you are ready to pay a price. Say for example, a company which is growing at 30% per annum CAGR, that means it is going to double its balance sheet every 2.5 years. So वैसी companies आपको 7-8 के PE multiple पे या below book value पे नहीं मिलने वाली है. There has to be a premium which you have to pay. And the question is, if you see that growth is, जो growth है, जो 30% CAGR जो growth है वो sustainable है, then is it worth it? So this is what growth investing primarily is. It is focusing on fast growing companies which are likely to grow for the next 3 to 5 years at a similar pace and are available at okay price, not too less and not too high. See, in investing, price is the most important part, howsoever good may be the company. If you buy HUL at current price, I don't know, I mean, what kind of return you can make. So, taking the example of growth investing, there is a company called Capital First. I am sure you must have heard about it. It's an NBFC financing into different parts of the portfolio. So, Capital First was growing at 30% CAGR, available at 2 times price to book multiple and 22 PE. So 30% CAGR in a sector which itself is growing so buoyantly and backed by a good management. So what I felt was that the growth is 30 to 35%. The management is continuously mentioning in their conference call that the growth is likely to sustain for a couple of years. And as a result, if you would have got into the stock has doubled in the past 1 year. Because the market has priced in further growth. जैसे जैसे स्टॉक का ग्रोथ का कंसिस्टेंसी कंटिन्यू होता है, the valuations also tend to expand. The P multiples tend to go up. And believe me, PE expansion, the price earning ratio going up and the EPS going up gives a multiplier effect into the stock. So if the company is growing and available at reasonable PE multiple, or reasonable, I mean not too more, not much less. So then the growth investors का fancy वो होता है कि high growth companies available at reasonable valuation and thus they invest into the stock. Growth investing में chances of going wrong are more, since it's a riskier trade compared to the value investing part. In value investing part, you have the certain intrinsic value, the enterprise value to back you. But in growth, it's only the numbers growth. जहाँ number growth रुका, जहाँ earnings growth रुका, the valuations may correct also, and as a result, the stock can also go down. So this is growth investing. They obviously trade at a premium and slightly higher risk trade compared to the value investing thing. Now let's come to the hybrid of both these approaches, which is growth at reasonable price. अब सब ये सोच रहे होंगे कि यार ऐसे growth at reasonable price stock मिल जाए तो फिर क्या देखना, but they are difficult to find. But this is the approach generally followed by most of the fund managers in India, because India is a consistently growing economy and it is assumed that this growth is going to accelerate further from here. So growth at reasonable price का characteristic ये है कि they are growing not at very high pace but at decent consistent pace. Say for example, if a company is growing not at 30% but 20, 22, 25%, and the valuations are relatively less. So to see the growth at reasonable price stocks, there is a ratio which was invented or incorporated by a famous fund manager of America called Peter Lynch, who has written a lot of books. PEG ratio, price to earning growth multiple, in which you take the price to earning ratio, the P ratio, as the numerator and the growth, earnings growth, as the denominator. And if it is less than 1, then the stock is a good buy. This is just one ratio, but there are a lot of factors to be considered. You have to do the analysis on the management, the financial statements and everything. But this is one ratio which indicates whether this growth is available at a reasonable price or not. So growth at reasonable price के बहुत prominent example है. One is the housing finance industry and the second is auto ancillary industry. Housing finance, India has a structural demand for housing finance. As far as housing goes, housing is very, very, very underpenetrated in our country. If you see government's vision also, they want to do housing for all. So this is a sector which has an unhindered growth potential for the next decade or so. So housing finance sector continuously in the past has been growing at 18-20%. There are certain companies which are growing at even 30, 40%, 25% and upwards. So there is a company called Indiabull Housing Finance, which, sir, when the first time we bought it, it was available at 12% dividend yield. The first time we bought Indiabull Housing Finance, it was available at 12% dividend yield. It was at book value, 1.2 times book value. Earnings continuously growing at 26%. So if you, and the PE multiple was 10-12. So if you take the PEG ratio here, 12 divided by 26, the growth was available at a very reasonable price, and also it had a lot of safety in terms of the dividend yield. Stock chale na chale 12% का dividend yield तो confirm है. And since then the stock has gone 5 times and the dividend yield is still coming. Dividend yield is close to 5% and it is still growing at 30%. The market cap is now close to 40,000 crores. The time we bought it was 8,000 crores. Similarly, there is a company in the NBFC sector only called Bajaj Finance. I mean, I don't think कि किसी को Bajaj Finance के बारे में नहीं मालूम होगा. AC finance करना, mobile finance करना, ऐसे छोटी-छोटी चीज़ों से finance करने में that company has gone places. I mean, when we first time sir bought Bajaj Finance again, sir 1000 shares buy करना रहता था तो 2 दिन लगते थे. It was so illiquid. At 1400-1500 price. It was at 6,000 crores market cap. it was continuously again growing at 30%. The management was also indicating that 25% growth is possible, and the stock was available at a 16p multiple. So this is one more example of growth at reasonable price. Wonderful company backed by wonderful management, Bajaj. Opportunity, structural opportunity is there. Growth is there. Growth visibility is also there. And the most important thing, that is the price. That was also there. In the past 3.5 years, Bajaj Finance has done a 10x return. From 6,000 crore market cap, it is now trading at 62 odd thousand crores market cap. So this is how growth at reasonable price examples are available, and there are many more, I am very sure. I have considered an auto ancillary company also, which is Minda Industries. So Minda Industries is a company where continuously there was some corporate restructuring in the company going on. The company had separated from its sister concern, and a lot of reconstruction was going on, and their main clientele was Maruti and people like Honda and all, jinka brand बहुत strong hai and which has consistent demand. So earnings were growing at 30%. The management was confident of doing 40% CAGR growth for a continuous period, and the stock was available at 15p multiple. Undiscovered stock, that is why the P multiple was less. Had it been discovered, the P multiple would have not been so attractive. Now that the stock is discovered quite a bit from the market, the P multiple is 22. So just I am giving you examples. If there is a good company, decent management, reasonable business at high growth and reasonable price, so I think then we are in for some serious returns. So this is the approach primarily we should try to follow, because growth investing is slightly towards the riskier side, because if earnings growth for any reason they falter, you are going to lose quite a bit of money. Value investing primarily works very nicely at the stages of extreme euphoria or extreme fear. So in the sector of metals, at last year it was extreme fear, and when extreme euphoria comes, there are certain sectors which get ignored. So that is why the value emerges. So that is, searching for value stocks is very, very, it's difficult, and you need to have a contrarian mindset also for that, because no one is chasing that stock. That is why they are available at such discounted prices. So this is an approach which takes the good things of value also and the good parts of growth investing also, and these stocks generate reasonable rate of returns also. Also, a lot of research is also required. So this is how growth at reasonable price works. Now, अब ये सब ways of investing तो हो गए, पर P ratio क्या है, PEG क्या है, what is return on equity, क्या ratios जो है हम consider कर सकते हैं एक stock selection के समय, वो देखते हैं. So ratio analysis is basically this indicates कि whether the company is available at reasonable valuation, whether the growth trajectory is there. This is basically a tool for the selection of the companies which we can buy and add in the portfolio. So I have classified ratios in 4 categories. One is the valuation, liquidity ratios, profitability ratios, and leverage ratios. So let's see them one by one. So valuation ratios. So valuation, ultimately, howsoever good the stock may be, the valuation at which we buy makes the difference. So P ratio, the most common, most widely followed indicator is the P ratio, where you straight away take the price of the stock and divide it by the EPS. It simply indicates कि X profit की company आज क्या price पे available है. It can also be done by market cap to net profit. Market cap is also the price of the company, and net profit is what the company is earning. So P ratio indicates what valuation the company is trading at, and P ratios generally are different for different sectors. I mean, if you will not get a FMCG company like HUL at 15p, you will never get it until and unless there is something absolutely wrong. So P ratios हर sector के लिए अलग-अलग रहते हैं, हर companies के लिए अलग-अलग रहते हैं. They trade at a particular band. So you have to see कि when you are seeing a stock, उसका average P multiple क्या trade हुआ in the past 5-10 years across the cycle, if it's a cyclical business, and if it's a consistent business, then you have to see the average P multiple up and down. Generally the mean P जो multiple होता है. So P is the most followed approach as well, and market is also valued watched at a PE multiple basis कि Nifty forward PE multiple पे क्या multiples पे चल रहा है, what stock is trading at what PE multiple. The next ratio is price to book ratio, which is morely used for financial companies, lending companies, and also the companies which have lot of assets. Say for example a manufacturing industry and something like that, which has an industrial background, which has a lot of assets and lot of capital expenditure goes into setting those companies. So price to book is nothing but net worth upon the equity paid up after adjusting some revaluation reserves and all. So some of the metal stocks, I'm repeating that example, some of the metal stocks were available at below book value. Some of the PSU banks are trading at below book value. But that doesn't mean they are screaming by on the whole. You have to do your further due and diligence ki which PSU bank can benefit, which metal company can do well. So valuations, they've concealed some facts also and they reveal some facts also. There may be a reason कि किसी stock का price earning multiple क्यों बहुत कम है या क्यों बहुत ज़्यादा है. HUL is a company whose management capabilities cannot be doubted. But if there is a company, say like Kingfisher, so the valuations contract in such companies where the management does a blunder or the market has less confidence on the management. So there are both sides to it. Similarly for price to book value also. At the one end, market is valuing Kotak Mahindra Bank at 5 to 6 times price to book multiple, whereas it is valuing SBI at somewhere close to price to book 1.2. So the perception also builds into these ratios. So we need to be very careful. We cannot follow blindly any ratio कि PE ratio 10 के नीचे है तो this is a must buy. There may be a reason why it is trading at below 10. So you have to take everything as far as the valuation and these things are go with a pinch of salt कि why this is happening and why this is not. And if we find a reason कि this company deserves a discount multiple, then we can leave it. But if we identify कि ये discount unwarranted है, this is irrational, then we can consider that stock. Other important indicator is dividend yield. That is dividend per share, what you are earning. As I mentioned, Indiabull Housing Finance, we were receiving what 12% dividend yield at that point of time. So higher dividend yield से क्या होता है? You get a sense of safety. There is a margin of safety कि इतना तो dividend ही आ रहा है. So extremely high dividend yields sometimes in an unidentified stock can be a very good opportunity. There is a recent example, PTC India Financial Services, when we bought at 19 rupees, 14 rupees and then 19. It was available at 6% dividend yield. REC was is available at 6% dividend, still available. Lot of the oil marketing companies which we have recommended and still holding are available at 5-6% dividend yield. So dividend yield gives you a sense of comfort कि there is not much to go wrong. So dividend yield is also a very important matrix to consider. But in growth companies, going to my previous slide, growth companies में क्या होता है? These companies जो profit आता है, they do not tend to distribute much with the shareholders. They believe in investing in the business once again to further continue the growth cycle. So this you will find कि value stocks में dividend yield may be higher. It has to be higher. And growth stocks में you will not get much of dividend yield. So this is how the price to earning ratio is, price to book is there, and dividend yield. Now let's look at some more ratios. That is the liquidity ratio. एक company के लिए cash is the most important factor. Where is cash going? How it is managing its cash flow? So two primary ratios are current ratio, which is nothing but current asset upon current liabilities. Short term obligations अगर company fulfill नहीं कर सकती है, तो how it is going to repay its long term debt? So this shows the liquidity factors with the company, कि whether the operations are going smoothly or not. Current ratio has to be below one, has to be above 1.5, because I mean that's minimum which we want. Anything below that is this is showing you some signs that there is something going wrong with the company. The company is going through a cash trap. The other is interest coverage ratio, where you take the profit before interest and tax and divide it by interest expense. Because if you see if the interest expense is almost as good as the PBIT, then you are not going to earn anything on the bottom line or the net profit level. So it has to be interest coverage ratio of 3 times, 4 times. And interest coverage ratios can also, improving interest coverage ratios or deteriorating interest coverage ratios can make you a lot of money. For example, there is a company called Gayatri Projects. For the past, this is an Hyderabad-based infrastructure company. They were reducing their debt. As a result, their interest coverage ratio was improving. As a result, since their interest coverage ratio was improving, the savings in interest cost was getting percolated to the bottom line, and the EPS was continuously growing. The profitability was continuously growing. The stock is a 7-bagger since then. So this is how improving interest coverage ratio can be a big trigger for the stock if the market has not identified it yet. So this is how this ratio can help you. Similarly, a deteriorating interest coverage ratio can help you by not investing in it and saving a lot of money. So these are liquidity ratios. Some of the liquidity ratios are also like receivable days, payable days and debt to equity. Receivable days, payable days का ratio अगर हम लें, तो receivable days में ये होता है कि how much days do we take to get money from our debtors, and payable days में how much time we have to pay to our creditors. If a company has very strong business competitiveness, then this ratio can indicate, I want to rephrase myself, this ratio can indicate कंपनी का कॉम्पिटिटिव स्ट्रेंथ इन द मार्केट कैसा है. अगर कंपनी के पेएबल डेज ज़्यादा है और रिसीवेबल डेज कम है, देन इट हैज़ अ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग ब्रांड, वेरी वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग ब्रांड, एंड कंपनी डिक्टेट्स द मार्केट टर्म्स. जनरली ये बहुत कम कंपनियों में हमें देखने को मिलता है, वेरी 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 लेस. तो जिस कंपनी में ये पेएबल डेज रिसीवेबल डेज का रेशो अगर फेवरेबल है, तो दैट ऑल्सो गिव्स यू अ सेंस ऑफ द बिजनेस की वेदर दिस बिजनेस इज स्ट्रॉन्ग, फंडामेंटली द प्रोडक्ट का डिमांड है कि नहीं, यू गेट टू नो अबाउट दैट. द नेक्स्ट रेशियो इज यू मस्ट, दिस इज डेट इक्विटी रेशियो, दैट इज लॉन्ग टर्म डेट अपॉन इक्विटी प्लस रिजर्व्स. कितनी लेवरेज है कंपनी, बिकॉज लेवरेज कैन क्रिएट एंड डिस्ट्रॉय, इट इज अ डबल वैमी. सो अ फेवरेबल डेट हैज टू बी, if required, has to be there, but debt to equity should not be more than 2.5 times. However, if you cannot take debt to equity ratios for financing companies because their businesses get borrowing money and lending to someone. But generally manufacturing companies, any industrial companies should have a favorable debt to equity ratio, or the best case scenario it's a zero debt company. Anything debt to equity of above 2 should be ignored until and otherwise the company has a plan to reduce its debt, and as a result debt to equity will come down. So this is how the liquidity ratios like receivable days, payable days, debt to equity can help you in your stock selection. So now next let's come to profitability ratios. The first one is EBITDA margin, earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization. Basically what the company is actually earning from its business. EBITDA shows this. So a continuous rise in EBITDA, maintaining of the EBITDA margins can be a good trigger for the stock. I'll share with you one example. Last year commodities were going down like anything. In the past 2 years, crude came down from 120 to 28. As a result, the raw material prices for plastic companies were going down. So the companies like Supreme Industry, Nilkamal were benefiting a lot. Why? Because they had a strong brand. So the raw material prices were falling, but their product prices were not falling. They were behaving like normal. So as a result, Nilkamal, I've got the figures here. Nilkamal expanded its margin by 500 basis points in the past 2 years. This margin expansion on a big top line makes a very, very big difference. Companies like Cosmo Films, Uflex, who has a lot of commodity raw materials there, paints, have done well. So this is how EBITDA margin can help you, and you have to see this in everything. I mean, if commodity prices are going down, some company can benefit, some company will not benefit. So this is how EBITDA margin can help you, and EBITDA margin expansion can help you generate returns. The next is profit after tax margin. This is very simple. That's PAT upon the net sales. And Another important, very important ratio is return on equity. What that business is actually earning for the shareholders. Shareholders ने जितना पैसा डाला है उसमें ये business क्या कमा के देता है. This is a very important ratio. Improvement of this or deterioration of this can drive the stock prices and the valuations as a whole. So say if return on equity should be ideally upwards of 12 to 15%. A consistent high ROE leads to a valuation uptick in the stock prices. So if we are able to find a company which has say a return on equity of 10-12% and we make out that this ROE is going to stay steady and over a period it is going to grow to 15 to 20%, then we are sitting on a big multi-bagger. ROEs do a valuation expansion whenever they expand, or they contract the valuations also if the ROEs contract. So ROE is a very important ratios because it actually shows what the company actually is earning, what is the return for the shareholders who have invested their money. There is another ratio called return on capital employed. Every business does not only work on equity money. Kai businesses में debt भी रहता है. So there is return on capital employed also. So return on capital employed is nothing but equity plus the net debt which company has. That is total asset minus current liabilities. So by this you come to the capital employed ratio. So return on capital employed for the manufacturing companies is very important. So if say there is a steel business is going on, the ROC is what 10-12%. And due to some favorable factors, the ROC expands. So then that can be a trigger for the stock, and vice versa. The next is earning per share, EPS. So this is very important. ये एक single ratio है जिससे हमें समझ जाता है कंपनी का profit क्या है. What P multiple it is trading at, what EPS it has, these are the common questions among the investor community. EPS is nothing but reported net profit upon paid up equity into face value. हर एक शेयर पे प्रॉफिट कितना हो रहा है, EPS का मतलब ये है. सो दिस इज हाउ प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी रेशियोज गो. एंड टू सम अप दिस, कोई भी एक रेशियो पे हम ना ओवर डिपेंडेंट रह सकते हैं ना उसको इग्नोर कर सकते हैं. समटाइम्स द इम्प्रूवमेंट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट कवरेज रेशियो कैन हेल्प यू, समटाइम्स ROE एक्सपेंशन कैन हेल्प यू, समटाइम्स PE expansion can help you. So there are multiple factors which goes into a selection of the stock. We should not be have a narrow view. We should have a broad view while looking at a company of what things can go right and go wrong, and thus select a stock. So with this, I would like to thank you all for your patient listening, and let's do the Q&A.
The forum is open for question and answers. But just one point that I'd like to clarify. Whatever stocks he has mentioned are just examples. He has not recommended anything. So you should not go by whatever he has stated that plastics के stocks थे या फिर कोई भी stock का नाम लिया, HUL लिया है, तो it's not कि वो HUL recommend कर रहा है. It's just an example. So you should understand that. अब आपके अगर सवाल हैं तो definitely you can come up. Yes.
Earning per share is only available in the annual book of public sector, public companies.
No sir, it is applicable for all.
In all.
Yes.
Another question is, when we are going to, there is a bonus system in the industries.
Yes.
And here the people are investing in the companies. They are getting they are not getting the dividend. I'm talking about the dividend. It is not compulsory for any company because we are the investors and get some minimum percentage of the earning per share. Why it is not?
Sir, there is no statutory requirement for paying out any dividend, and certain companies have a dividend payout policy also, who decide कि we are going to pay 20%, 30% of our net profit. But it is company centric decision only. If a company whether it wants to pay out or not. It is not mandatory. No, no sir. It is not mandatory.
Sir, you have quoted an example of action workers. You quoted an example of action workers where you said that cash was more than market cash. I want to elaborate. Please.
Elaborate what?
Cash is having more than market capitalization. Exactly how to examine it.
You see, what is market capitalization? Number of shares issued by the company multiplied by the market price. This is the total market capitalization of the company. ये clear है? What is market capitalization?
Sir,
Yeah.
about it, we know the share price. We do not know how many shares are issued by the company.
You know the equity?
Yeah.
Divide that by the face value.
Yeah,
So you'll get,
equity when that we have to get it from the records.
yes.
Because it's not easily available.
No, it is very easily available, but you have to make an effort. You cannot sit in, equity will fall from the skies, that will not happen. You have to make some effort.
So that market capitalization is available. Now
Right.
what's the cash?
Cash is the bank balances, the current assets in the company. आप समझिए एक कोई कंपनी है जिसका मार्केट कैपिटलाइजेशन 200 करोड़ का है और उसकी जो कैश ऑन बैलेंस शीट के कंपोनेंट्स है जैसे कि फिक्स डिपॉजिट हो गया, मान लीजिए 170 करोड़ का फिक्स डिपॉजिट है, 50 करोड़ रुपया लिक्विड फंड में पड़ा है उसका, और कोई 10-20 करोड़ रुपया बॉन्ड्स में पड़ा है उसका, तो मार्केट कैपिटलाइजेशन तो 200 ही करोड़ है और लिक्विड एसेट्स उसकी 300 करोड़ है।
तो सर ये तो बुक वैल्यू पे भी रिफ्लेक्ट करेगा।
बुक वैल्यू पे भी करेगा। बुक वैल्यू में क्या है कि रियल एस्टेट, रियल एसेट्स का भी वो भी एक कंपोनेंट है एंड यू डोंट नो वेदर जिस तरह से उसका फेयर वैल्यूएशन किया हुआ है रियल एसेट का वो करेक्ट है कि नहीं है, लेकिन बैंक डिपॉजिट तो बैंक डिपॉजिट है, इसमें तो कोई हेरफेर नहीं हो सकती है। तो देयर इज नथिंग टू वैल्यू इन कैश इन बुक्स, whereas when you assess the book value, there may be some hidden components which you need to know whether it is genuine or not. Yeah. So let them come up with the questions. Yeah.
सर फाइनली लुकिंग
जी
आप जो कह रहे हैं रिगार्डिंग जैसे रियल एस्टेट अपना
रियल एसेट्स।
रियल एस्टेट,
हाँ।
उसमें एक एग्जांपल था करता ये उससे रिलेटेड था क्या?
हाँ, अगर वो आप एक्चुअली सर्जरी करते हो उसकी बैलेंस शीट की तो वो चीज़ पकड़ में आ जाती है, उसमें पकड़ में आ सकती थी।
जब तक जो एक्सपोज नहीं हुआ था तब तक किसी को पता नहीं चलता कि
नहीं, वो एक्सपोज जिस कारण से वो दूसरे फ्रॉड कर रहा था, वो
हाँ
जाली फिक्स डिपॉजिट बना रखे थे, उनके ऊपर लोन ले रखा था, जाली 600 अकाउंट्स थी, सैलरी अकाउंट्स, उसमें सैलरी ट्रांसफ़र हो रही थी कंपनी से, इस टाइप के काम थे। वो सारे फ्रॉड के कारण वो पकड़ा गया और बैलेंस शीट को कुकअप कर ही रहा था वो थोड़ा बहुत।
बैलेंस शीट पिकअप कर रहा था, ऑडिट हो रही थी, सब हो रहा था
जी।
ये तब तक के पकड़ में नहीं आया था,
जी
उसमें तो कैश वैल्यू जो है वो हायर नहीं थी।
जी, इसलिए सर जो प्रतीक ने एक पैरामीटर बताया क्वालिटी ऑफ मैनेजमेंट, इसी आप कितना भी कसरत कर ले हुए, अगर फ्रॉड करना है किसी ने कंपनी में तो कागज़ के भरोसे अगर आप चेक कर रहे हैं, यू कांट बी 100% श्योर कि ये कागज़ ट्रू है। CAs knows, ऑल द CA नो कि कितने में एक सर्टिफिकेट इशू होता है तो वो एक बार आपका कंफर्ट आ जाए कागज़ पे तो वो क्वालिटी ऑफ मैनेजमेंट, रादर हम लोग तो रिवर्स प्रोसेस, अगर क्वालिटी ऑफ मैनेजमेंट अच्छी है तो ही हम उसकी रिसर्च में घुसते हैं वो कंपनी की। और हाउ डू यू असेस द क्वालिटी ऑफ द मैनेजमेंट, उसका ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड देख लीजिए पिछले 5-7 साल का, 10 साल का, उस कंपनी का डिविडेंड पेमेंट कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा है कि सिर्फ बुक्स में प्रॉफिट दिखा रहा है, क्योंकि डिविडेंड पेमेंट करने में पैसे देने पड़ते हैं शेयर होल्डर को और सर्टिफिकेट बनवाने में प्रॉफिट का ज्यादा पैसे नहीं लगते और एक ही बार में लगते हैं। उसका टैक्स पेमेंट कर रहा है कि नहीं कर रहा है। अब ऐसी भी कंपनियां मिलेंगी आपको कि 50 करोड़ का प्रॉफिट है और टैक्स पेमेंट 3 लाख रुपया है, 5 लाख रुपया है। तो जो आदमी फ्रॉड कर रहा है, नॉट नेसेसरीली कि उसमें फ्रॉड है, पर चांसेस आर वेरी हाई, क्योंकि वो टैक्स पेमेंट तो घर से निकाल के पैसे गवर्नमेंट को देने हैं ना, तो उसको कैसे मैनेज करना है ताकि वो घर से पैसे ना निकले और प्रॉफिट भी 50 करोड़ दिखे। तो वो आदमी कुछ तो भी मैनेज करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, ऐसा एक स्ट्रॉन्ग क्लू मिलता है वहां से। फिर आपको और डिटेल में जाना पड़ेगा कि इसकी टैक्स फ्री इनकम तो नहीं है, उस कारण से तो टैक्स पेमेंट कम नहीं है। नॉर्मली जितनी प्रूडेंट मैनेजमेंट है वो डिविडेंड पे आउट उनका अच्छा रहेगा कभी भी। इवन इफ दे वांट टू कंजर्व कैश और वांट कैश फॉर फ्यूचर एक्सपेंशंस, स्टिल they will be fair to the shareholders and they will distribute X% of their profits as dividend. जो गड़बड़ मैनेजमेंट है वो कैश कंजर्वेशन का रीजन देके डिविडेंड नहीं डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करती है, पर वो रीजन ये है कि वो पैसा ही नहीं बाहर निकालना चाहती, और पैसा जो दिखाया गया है बुक्स पे वो है भी नहीं वहां पैसा, इसलिए डिविडेंड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन नहीं हो रहा है। हाँ जी, हाँ जी, हाँ जी।
तो ये कंपनियां फंडामेंटली अच्छी होनी ही चाहिए क्या?
फंडामेंटली अच्छी ही है, पास्ट ये बता रहा है उनका, पर फ्यूचर आपको टेस्ट चेक करना पड़ेगा। हाई डिविडेंड यील्ड से एक क्वेश्चन बहुत जबरदस्त होता है कि हिस्टोरिकली 4 to 5% इज हाई डिविडेंड यील्ड इन द मार्केट एंड द हाईएस्ट डिविडेंड यील्ड वुड बी 8 to 10%. Which means suppose you have bought a stock at 6% dividend yield. In the worst scenario, it will not go below 40%, 50% से ज्यादा और नीचे नहीं जा पाएगा वो, क्योंकि 40-50% प्राइस में फॉल आ गया तो डिविडेंड यील्ड शूट अप हो जाएगी 10-12% पे, और नॉर्मली मार्केट 10% की डिविडेंड यील्ड ज्यादा टाइम नहीं रहने देता कोई भी स्टॉक में। उसमें एक प्रोबेबिलिटी आपको चेक करनी है कि डिविडेंड यील्ड जो आप कैलकुलेट कर रहे हो वो प्रीवियस ईयर के डिविडेंड पे कर रहे हो, वेदर इन द कमिंग ईयर्स द कंपनी विल हैव कैपेबिलिटी टू गिव दैट डिविडेंड और नॉट, इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट। HCL इन्फो सिस्टम इज वन सच एग्जाम्पल। वो जब उसमें डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन का बिजनेस था तो उसका 8,000 करोड़ का वॉल्यूम था उस बिजनेस का, और वो डिविडेंड यील्ड उस टाइम में उसका 6 to 7% हुआ करता था। उन्होंने डीमर्जर किया उस डिवीजन का। अब बुक्स तो यही दिखा रही है कि डिविडेंड जो लास्ट ईयर था वो अगर नेक्स्ट ईयर आया तो डिविडेंड यील्ड 18% हो जाएगी, लेकिन होता नहीं ना ऐसा। जिसने वो चेक किया जाके क्या हुआ है, तो वो उसमें से ट्रेडिंग डिवीजन हट गया था और आने वाले साल में 1/10 प्रॉफिट आने वाला था, तो ऑब्वियसली डिविडेंड भी ड्रॉप होने वाला था, तो ऑब्वियसली डिविडेंड यील्ड भी ड्रॉप होने वाली थी। तो इरेशनल डिविडेंड यील्ड दिखे आपको तो यू गेट अ रीजन टू रिसर्च मोर कि भाई ये आगे आने वाले सालों में ऐसा तो नहीं है डिविडेंड यील्ड चेंज हो जाने वाली है। ठीक है, या
Consolidated ratios, because sometimes it happens.
When you say consolidated, what do you mean?
So like Tata is a group of companies.
हाँ,
So one of the subsidiaries is Tata Steel.
right.
But Tata is a good brand name, so it has good ratios. But then Tata Steel may not have that amount of good ratios.
नहीं
So,
sir,
in that case-
Tata Steel is not a subsidiary. Point one, it is a company,
Company, sorry.
belongs to the Tata Group. Tata Refractory is a subsidiary of Tata Steel. So when you are analyzing Tata Steel, give 10-20% weightage to the group कि भाई टाटा ग्रुप का है तो इसको मैं तसल्ली से देख सकता हूं, यहां धोखा नहीं होने वाला है, ये ग्रुप का 100 साल का ट्रैक रिकॉर्ड है, उसको 20% वेटेज दे दीजिए। उसके बाद टाटा स्टील की बैलेंस शीट और वहां ग्रोथ प्रोस्पेक्ट्स आइडेंटिफाई करिए। इसे एक मिस्टेक हम बहुत सारे इन्वेस्टर्स ये करते हैं कि वी थिंक दैट द बेस्ट कंपनीज एट एन एक्स प्राइस are the best place to invest. As an investor, what you should do is, a good company which has potential to appreciate should be bought. Infosys is a good company, even a 10-year-old child will come knows about it in India. But whether Infosys, if bought at 1100 or 1000 rupees, will make me money or not is really very important. And that comes out of either if you are on the value investing methodology, then it should be available at a discount to its intrinsic or a historic valuation. And when you are on a top-down approach or growth approach, then you should see whether in future the company has growth potential or not. You see why TCS and an Infosys is going nowhere in last 2-3 years? Because they've become elephants, they've become जहाज हो गए हैं वो, और वो mature companies हो गए हैं, 20-30 हजार करोड़ का प्रॉफिट है उन कंपनियों का. अब यहां से परसेंटेजेस में ग्रोथ लाना इतना आसान नहीं है. अब जब प्रॉफिट में परसेंटेजेस में ग्रोथ नहीं आ रही है तो स्टॉक प्राइस में कैसे आने वाली है? So unless and until they have a game plan to change, where from 30 to 36,000 crore, 36,000 to 42,000 crore का विजिबिलिटी मिलता है प्रॉफिट का, तब तक स्टॉक प्राइसेस मूव होना शुरू नहीं होंगी मेजर वे में. हाँ, पर कोई नेगेटिव न्यूज आई, उधर यूएस में प्रेसिडेंट ने कुछ उल्टा कर दिया, ये कर दिया, वो कर दिया, और एवरेज वैल्यूएशन से नीचे 700 रुपए आ जाता है अगर इन्फोसिस, तो वैल्यूएशन कैचअप के लिए आप उसको खरीद सकते हो कि जब भी वो चीजें नॉर्मलाइज होंगी ये 700 से 1000 वापस आ जाएगा, उस टाइम में मैं बेच दूंगा. तो ये अलग अलग स्ट्रैटेजी है. देयर आर 1000 वेज यू कैन एक्चुअली स्टार्ट इन्वेस्टिंग एंड मेक मनी इन द मार्केट. एनी मोर? राइट. तो क्वेश्चन क्या है आपका? हाँ जी सर, इंडियन फार्मा सेक्टर इज गोइंग थ्रू अ डिफरेंट स्ट्रगल पीरियड. एक्चुअली अगर आप लास्ट 15 इयर्स में देखेंगे तो 300 करोड़ की कंपनी 30,000 करोड़ की हो गई है इंडिया में. टॉप 2-3 फार्मा कंपनीज जो हैं, कितनी? 300-500 करोड़ से 30,000 करोड़. एंड इफ यू गो इन टू डिटेल, the primary reason for this kind of growth in last 15 years in pharma is the global markets which they have captured for their generic supplies, and primarily dominated by US markets. 70-60% exports इनके US को है. US बहुत बड़ी दुकान है जहां सिर्फ लोग दवाइयां खाते हैं ऐसा लगता है अपने को. I mean everybody, Tom, Dick and Harry goes and sells drugs over there. Drugs and medicines, and US has the appetite to consume that. So Indian companies did that in last 15 years. Now since last 2-3 years, what has happened? Most likely the flavor says that the government has realized that Americans are eating medicines manufactured by Indians, supplied by Indians, and all the profit Americans are paying, and the profit being earned is by the Indian company. So what they have done is, through US FDA, they have started creating hurdles for these companies in terms, they have norms, manufacturing facility environment norms. All the companies which want to supply drugs in USA have to comply to those norms. Now what they do is, they have the power, once, if you go to them for approval, suppose you are a pharmaceutical company and you want to sell your drugs in US, so you have to take their approval. When you go there for approval, they will come and inspect your plant, and whether your plant satisfies the norms required by US FDA, they will inspect. They will give you a certificate. Then you are allowed to sell the your drugs in US market. So in last 2 years, it has been noted that whether it be Ranbaxy, Sun Pharma, Wockhardt, Divi's Lab, Dr. Reddy, everybody is being inspected by US FDA, and everybody is being given some observations and ban on their sales in US. Almost all. I mean, that can't be a coincidence. That prompts you that it is a planned move. And companies like Wockhardt have not been able to get clearance of US FDA since last 3 years. 3 years mein Indian entrepreneur of Wockhardt caliber can create greenfield plants of 10,000 crore rupees and start manufacturing. And these people have not been able to upgrade their facility to suit the US FDA norm. This does not sound very true. So there is some hurdle from US government, it seems, and that is why these companies, on these companies, US FDA has imposed ban to sell in America, and that is why their sales are going down, their profits are going down. There is a lot of uncertainty built on their US sales, and that is what market does not like. तो ऑप्टिमिज्म साइड में वो एक्सट्रीम करता है, तो पेसिमिज्म में भी एक्सट्रीम कर देगा वो, यानी जितनी सेल्स और प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी घटेगी नहीं, उससे ज्यादा प्राइसेस को घटा देगा वो. ये प्रॉब्लम है डॉक्टर रेड्डी का. या
Whenever IPO comes in the market, they have certain fixed value of shares. Means you can see 100, 220 rupees market. But within 7 days, when there nothing will have happened in India, in the world, and nothing unforeseen circumstances happened, and on listing there the rate has gone down to 50 rupees from 100. What happened in that? Because that prospectus has been examined by number of the qualified persons by SEBI, and how this rate has down from 100 rupees to 50 rupees.
सर मल्टीपल फैक्टर्स हो सकते हैं. जिसने प्रॉपरली प्रोस्पेक्टस इंस्पेक्ट किया, प्राइस अप्रूव की, वहाँ प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है. सब्सक्रिप्शन ट्रू नहीं था, बोगस था, ये द सेकंड प्रॉब्लम हो सकता है. कंपनी अच्छी थी, उसके बावजूद बैड सिनेरियो के कारण सब्सक्रिप्शन नहीं आया, इसलिए वो प्राइस डाउन खोली, ये रीजन हो सकता है. तो इस तरह से बहुत नंबर ऑफ रीजन हो सकते हैं. कोई ब्लैंकेट थॉट इस पे दिया नहीं जा सकता, वो एक एक इशू को एनालाइज करने के बाद ही समझ में आएगा. नहीं, आप सर आप वही क्वेश्चन रिपीट कर रहे हैं जिसका मैं आंसर दे चुका हूँ. भूचाल नहीं आया, ये आपके परसेप्शन से भूचाल नहीं आया. आपने हर पूरे के पूरे आर्टिकल्स उस कंपनी पे क्या क्या आए वो पढ़े नहीं. मान लीजिए फुल्ली सब्सक्राइब नहीं हुआ, डिवॉल्व हो गया वो इशू, या मर्चेंट बैंकर्स ने उसके पैसे भर के और वो इशू सब्सक्राइब कराया है फॉर वट एवर रीजन. सेबी ने बोला है कि 100 रुपया उसकी फेयर वैल्यू है, इन्वेस्टर ने मानना चाहिए ना उसको. सेबी ने तो डीमार्ट का बोला था फेयर वैल्यू 299 है, पर इन्वेस्टर ने उसको 650 बना दिया. तो वैसे ही वो 100 रुपए के शेयर को 50 रुपए भी बना देता है ना. इन्वेस्टर ने मानना चाहिए ना उस बात को. इन्वेस्टर ने नहीं माना, इसलिए 50 रुपया है. मे बी आपने, वही तो हम बोले आपको, आपका परसेप्शन है भूचाल नहीं आया, लेकिन बहुत सारी चीजें होती रहती है कंपनी के बारे में. जो बहुत डिटेल स्टडी करते रहते हैं उनको पता चलते रहता है ये सब क्या हो रहा है. मे बी आपको पता ना चला हो, उन्होंने कोई पेमेंट पे डिफॉल्ट कर दिया हो, ये चीज मार्केट में आ गई हो कि अरे इसने तो पेमेंट में डिफॉल्ट कर दिया, इसकी ऐसी हालत है, और आईपीओ आ गया. नहीं सर, ये ना बोले, चीटेड वाली बात नहीं है सर. ये चीटेड वाली बात नहीं है. जहां पैसा मिला वहां चीटेड नहीं हुए, और जहां पैसा नहीं मिला हमने कोई ड्यू डिलिजेंस नहीं किया इसलिए चीटेड बोल रहे हैं हम. सारे इन्वेस्टर वासनकर के पास गए थे, जब भी उन्होंने भी बोला कि वी वर चीटेड, बट इट वाज नॉट चीटिंग. आई मीन इट वाज चीटिंग, देयर इज नो डाउट, बट हु ड्रू देम देयर? इट वाज द ग्रीड. Nowhere in the world 36% return exists, but people went there. So you put yourself into a situation where you were available for cheating. So somebody cheated you.
Whatever statutory requirement is there for auditing of this sort, prospectus and by SEBI, that is not foolproof.
नहीं सर, ऑडिट से प्राइस थोड़ी होती सर. ऑडिट से प्राइस थोड़ी डिसाइड होती. ऑडिट तो केपीएमजी इंफोसिस का भी करता होगा, डेलॉइट भी करता होगा, लेकिन उसे ये थोड़ी बोलता है कि इंफोसिस की प्राइस 800 जाएंगे या 2000 जाएंगी. वो तो उसके फ्यूचर प्रोस्पेक्ट्स. इट इज जस्ट एन इंफॉर्मेशन टू यू एंड नो, वो डिस्क्लेमर क्या आता है? इन्वेस्टमेंट्स आर सब्जेक्ट टू मार्केट रिस्क, प्लीज रीड द ड्राफ्ट। वो आता है ना वो, तो आप रीड, आपने आज तक रीड किया क्या? मेरे को बताइए, वो है अवेलेबल, आपने रीड किया क्या आज तक? नहीं किया।
ऐसा तो नहीं है कि आप चाहते हैं कि इन्वेस्टमेंट मनी या जो भी इशू प्राइस है दैट शुड बी सेफगार्डेड, अगर वो 2 महीने में या 15 दिन में या 6 महीने में उसकी प्राइस इशू प्राइस से कम हो जाती है तो सेबी को ऐसा ग्रुप बनाना चाहिए कि वो बायबैक करे। ऐसा तो नहीं है।
Sir, I think I want to take a view whether we continue with the question answer session, because we had originally planned fundamental and technical. Technical is also a very big subject. At the most, if you all wish, we can just introduce technicals in 5-10 minutes, and rest of the session we will have to take it next time only. So either we start technical completely afresh next time, and continue with the question answer session, or we introduce technicals and take it further in the next, whatever everybody feels we can do.
जैसा लगता है, I personally feel कि आज जो भी डिस्कस हुआ, I think most of the things were new for many people out here. चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट्स के लिए भी सीए बनने के टाइम पे जो सीखा था वो आज रिफ्रेश हुआ, बट स्टिल आई थिंक एब्जॉर्ब जो है करने के लिए दैट विल टेक सम टाइम. आई थिंक दिस वीडियो जो ये पब्लिश होगा, मोस्ट ऑफ यू हु आर हियर विल डेफिनेटली ट्राई टू हैव अ रीलुक एट वॉट एवर वॉज पॉइंटेड आउट टुडे, क्योंकि बहुत सारी चीज़ें एब्जॉर्ब भी नहीं हुई है. देखा, समझ में आया, बट पूरी तरह एब्जॉर्ब नहीं हुआ. सो आई थिंक इट विल बी अ हायर डोज इफ वी गो थ्रू टेक्निकल्स टुडे, एंड इट विल नॉट जस्टिफाई you all, or rather हम लोग भी कर देंगे बट वो जस्टिफिकेशन नहीं होगा. सो विल आई थिंक विल स्टॉप हियर. सर एक सिर्फ आपसे चाहूँगा, सभी ऑडियंस के लिए, मेरे लिए भी, कि आपके हिसाब से फंडामेंटली टॉप 5 सेक्टर्स जो आपको लगते हैं यहाँ से 1-2 साल जिसमें इन्वेस्ट कर सकते हैं, सेक्टर्स इफ नॉट स्टॉक्स, आप वो थोड़ा सा बताइए, और क्यों लगते हैं थोड़ा सा वो भी एक दो लाइन.
5 थोड़ा एलैबोरेट हो जाएगा, उसमें 60% इंडस्ट्री कवर हो जाएंगी. 2 या 3 सेक्टर्स की हम बात करते हैं. किसी ने बोला था इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. किसने बोला था इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर? वो आपने. लॉजिक बताइए क्यों बोला था? Right. So every one of us agrees to his logic. तो सबसे पहले तो हमने एक लॉजिकली प्रोग्रेसिव सेक्टर आइडेंटिफाई कर लिया, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. अब इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हमको जस्ट इमेजिन करना है कि इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का मतलब क्या. इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर का मतलब है कि रोड्स बिल्ड करने हैं, ब्रिजेस बिल्ड करने हैं, हाउसिंग है, इट रिलेट्स टू कंस्ट्रक्शन प्राइमरीली. अब हमको उसमें से लॉजिक इवॉल्व करनी है कि इस इंडस्ट्री में कौन कौन लोग इन्वॉल्व है. एक तो बिल्डर हिमसेल्फ इज इन्वॉल्व, और एन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कंपनी जो ये एग्जीक्यूट कर रही है. इसके बाद मटेरियल क्या लगता है, तो सीमेंट लगने वाला है, स्टील लगने वाला है, लेबर इंटेंसिव है, इसलिए जनरली वेज अर्निंग्स बढ़ेंगी, वो पैसा वापस सर्कुलेट होकर इकोनॉमी में आएगा, तो इकोनॉमी वापस थोड़ी सी वाइब्रेंट होगी. करेक्ट. तो अब इसमें से डायरेक्टली हम ये ड्रॉ कर सकते हैं, एक तो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कंपनीज हु आर इनटू कंस्ट्रक्टिंग रोड, ब्रिजेस, रेलवे स्टेशन, मेट्रो स्टेशन, XYZ. देन द कंज्यूमेबल्स इन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर कंपनी, सीमेंट, स्टील. नाउ स्टील, आई वुड not give a blanket okay to that, because steel is a international commodity. So your domestic demand will not actually change the profitability of the company. The international pricing of steel will actually be more dominant unless and until, like what government did in last 6 months, 9 months, they have imposed certain protection prices, that you can't import steel from China below this price. So that is giving some fillip to the domestic manufacturer. पर वो टेम्पररी है, मतलब गवर्नमेंट कल हटा सकती है वो प्राइस को, कुछ भी. तो हम स्टील को अगर पॉजिटिव थॉट से डालते हैं, तो हमको ग्लोबल सिनेरियो को देखते हुए कि भाई क्या हम कमोडिटी साइकिल का अपटिक देख रहे हैं, क्या चाइना की स्टील की डिमांड इंप्रूव हो रही है, नहीं हो रही है, हु वाज अ डोमिनेंट कंज्यूमर ऑफ स्टील, जो भी फैक्टर्स है स्टील से रिलेटेड। पर सीमेंट कंप्लीटली डोमेस्टिक कमोडिटी है, सीमेंट इंपोर्ट नहीं होता और सीमेंट एक्सपोर्ट भी नहीं होता। तो अगर डोमेस्टिक डिमांड रोबस्ट हो जाती है सीमेंट के लिए, और सीमेंट की कैपेसिटी ओवरनाइट क्रिएट भी नहीं होती, तो प्राइस इंप्रूवमेंट होगा, उसमें मार्जिन इंप्रूवमेंट होगा। तो सीमेंट एंड द बिल्डर हिमसेल्फ, दे साउंड ग्रेट। और इसमें छोटे छोटे बहुत सारे एस्पेक्ट्स हैं, पर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर एंड रिलेटेड इंडस्ट्री ये नंबर 1 हो गया। इसके बाद और कोई थॉट किसी का, व्हाट कैन बी द नेक्स्ट इंडस्ट्री? न्यूक्लियर रिफॉर्म्स को इंडस्ट्री नहीं होती सर। नॉन कन्वेंशनल में आपके पास लिस्टेड प्लेयर्स नहीं है ज़्यादा, कोई भी ढंग का लिस्टेड प्लेयर नहीं है जो सोलर या विंड पावर देता हो। एक है आइनॉक्स विंड करके, पर वो भी थोड़ा शेडी सा ही है। तो एज अ सेक्टर वो बिल्ड नहीं होता। सेक्टर में कम से कम उसका 10-20 कंपनियां होनी चाहिए, मार्केट कैपिटलाइजेशन 50,000-25,000 करोड़ के ऊपर होना चाहिए, तो वो सेक्टर माना जाएगा। नहीं सर, नहीं सर, खुद के लिए लगाता है, लोगों के लिए लगा के दे रहा है क्या? लोगों के लिए लगा के दे रहा है।
लोगों के लिए अभी जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल मैग्नेटिक भारत को आंध्रा में 300 करोड़ का ऑर्डर हो रहा है फॉर सोलर एनर्जी।
आप BHEL की बात कर रहे हैं या मैग्नेली भारत की बात कर रहे हैं? हाँ,
मैग्नेटिक भारत को पावर जनरेशन नहीं था, पर मैग्नेटिक भारत को एक्चुअली पावर के
नहीं ठीक है सर, मेरा एक ही आंसर दिया। डज दैट सेक्टर हैज कंपनीज वर्थ 25,000 करोड़? So that is not a sector we can discuss here. We are talking about a sector which will emerge. We are not talking about a McNally Bharat who's got 300 crore का। और कोई सेक्टर बताए? डिफेंस में भी बातें बहुत है, अभी अवेलेबल नहीं है स्टॉक्स। हाउसिंग फाइनेंस, एविएशन कैन बी कंसिडर्ड। NBFCs, तो हाउसिंग फाइनेंस सेक्टर, हाउसिंग फॉर ऑल, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर से रिलेटेड है। रूरल इंडिया पेनिट्रेटेड नहीं है ज़्यादा। बिजनेस मॉडल सेफ है क्योंकि उसमें हम उसका घर हाइपोथिकेट करके लेंडिंग होती है। इसमें थोड़े से कंसर्न मेरे डेवलप हो रहे हैं इन टर्म्स ऑफ एक्सट्रीम कंपटीशन कमिंग इन, तो वो चीज़ को हम देखें। बट हाउसिंग फाइनेंस सेक्टर बाय एंड लार्ज लुक्स गुड। आई एम नॉट पॉजिटिव ऑन पावर, बिल्कुल भी पॉजिटिव नहीं हूं मैं। और अगर किसी की क्यूरियोसिटी होगी तो मैं आंसर दे सकता हूं क्यों नहीं हूं। रियल एस्टेट में मैं पॉजिटिव नहीं हूं। एक और, हाँ, एविएशन बहुत ही साइक्लिकल होता है। लास्ट 100 इयर्स की हिस्ट्री, अमेरिका से लेके अफ्रीका तक के, एक भी एविएशन कंपनी ने शेयर होल्डर को कभी पैसा बना के नहीं दिया। तो ये जब तक क्रूड प्राइसेस कंट्रोल में है, अभी एक पॉइंट हमने कवर नहीं किया है अभी, जो कंज्यूमर शिफ्ट की बात होती है। जैसे लोग ट्रेन से अब प्लेन की तरफ ज़्यादा मूवमेंट हो गया है, तो वहाँ बिजनेस बहुत ग्रो हो रहा है, पर प्राइस वॉर से मार्जिन्स कोई बहुत अच्छे नहीं है। 5-10% क्रूड में मूवमेंट हो जाता है तो ये सब कंपनियां लॉस में आ जाती है। आप देखेंगे कि जेट एयरवेज साल के 2 क्वार्टर में लॉस डिक्लेयर करता है, 2 क्वार्टर में प्रॉफिट डिक्लेयर करता है। ये अनसर्टेनिटी है। तो ये सब चीज़ों के कारण एविएशन एज अ सेक्टर कभी भी बहुत लॉन्ग टर्म में इन्वेस्टर ने नहीं लेना चाहिए। अभी बड़ा पॉजिटिव सिग्नल दे रहा है, देयर इज नो डाउट, पर कोई 5 साल के हिसाब से प्लान करे तो एविएशन को नहीं टच करना चाहिए। और कोई सेक्टर? ऑटो हम भूल गए। 2 मिलियन 20 मिलियन चाइना में, और डिजायर 5 लाख की है और वहां कोरोला 10 लाख की है, यानी 10 टाइम्स एंड 20 टाइम्स मार्केट ग्रो हो सकता है इंडिया में, 20 टाइम्स। और वहां तो मारुति इज बेस्ट, तो वो एक स्टॉक भी हो जाता है। हाँ जी, हाँ हाँ What do you think, if all that comes in, how many number of years will it take for actually taking off big sales? Right. नहीं, यूएस में क्या किया है बताएं? नहीं, नेम नहीं, ऐसे नहीं होता सर, नेम से थोड़ी होता है। कितनी गाड़ियां बेची है बताओ, कितनी गाड़ियां चल रही है ये बताओ। तो सेल्स इफेक्ट फ्यूचरिस्टिक है, जिससे सोलर हम 15 साल से बात कर रहे हैं, अब जाके वो रियलिटी बना है। तो अगर वो, और रियलिटी बनेगा कि भी नहीं बनेगा ये नहीं मालूम है टेस्ला। यू में कम टू नो आफ्टर 3 years की वो बैंकरप्ट हो गई वो कंपनी, क्योंकि उसने बहुत एडवेंचरस चीजें की और नहीं हो पाया सक्सेसफुल। एंड दिस इज ऑल बिजनेस इज अबाउट, आई मीन एक्स आइडियाज विल बी फ्रूटफुल एंड प्रॉफिटेबल, वाई आइडियाज मे नॉट बी। तो अभी वो दिल्ली दूर है, नेक्स्ट 5-10 years तक नहीं दिखता कि हम हमारा रोड्स जो है वो इतना ट्रांसफॉर्म कर पाएंगे कि डीजल पेट्रोल के व्हीकल चले जाएंगे और इलेक्ट्रिक के व्हीकल आ जाएंगे। सेकेंडली, इनमें जितनी अच्छी कंपनियां होंगी, दे विल माइग्रेट फ्रॉम डीजल पेट्रोल टू इलेक्ट्रिक वेरी फास्ट। हाइब्रिड वाइब्रिड ये वो मॉडल सब आना शुरू हो गए हैं अभी। तो टेस्ला तो पूरा रिसर्च करके बहुत महंगे में वो टेक्नोलॉजी लॉन्च करेंगी, दूसरी 10 कंपनियां उससे आधे में वो टेक्नोलॉजी लाके और फ्लड कर देंगे मार्केट्स को। तो इट इज टू फार। जैसे जैसे सिनेरियो क्लियर होता है, हमने ऑटोमोबाइल इज देयर टू स्टे, कॉम्पिटेंट कंपनीज विल माइग्रेट फ्रॉम एक्स टेक्नोलॉजी टू एक्स प्लस टेक्नोलॉजी एनी टाइम। तो ऑटोमोबाइल, ऑटो एंसेलरीज, ये भी अच्छा लगता है। डीरेगुलेटेड एनवायरनमेंट में ऑयल मार्केटिंग कंपनीज अभी भी अच्छी लगती है। वी ऑलरेडी डन 4 times 10 times। हम अपने यहाँ जब रिकमेंडेशन आया था वहां से 10 times हो गया स्टॉक विद इन 3.5 years। पर यहां से भी मल्टीप्लिकेशन होने का बहुत चांस दिखता है। वहां भी यही प्रॉब्लम है, एंट्री बैरियर है, कंपटीशन जल्दी क्रिएट नहीं हो सकती है। 5-5 हजार पेट्रोल पंप है एक एक कंपनी के, वो पेट्रोल पंप सिटी में लाएंगे कहां से? अब सपोज शंकर नगर की रिक्वायरमेंट है 5,000 लीटर पेट्रोल और 5,000 डीजल की। अब अगर कोई नई कंपनी को आना है तो शंकर नगर में कहां से लाएगी पेट्रोल पंप? और लाएगी तो वाइबिलिटी नहीं होगी उसकी। वो 50 करोड़ की जमीन होगी, जमीन पे पेट्रोल बेचेगा वो 70 रुपए 50 रुपए लीटर का, उसमें 5 पैसे 10 पैसे पर लीटर कमाएगा, तो वाइबिलिटी नहीं आती। तो एंट्री बैरियर भी है, डीरेगुलेटेड एनवायरनमेंट है, उसमें एक सबसे बड़ी रिस्क है गवर्नमेंट चेंज होती है या गवर्नमेंट का थॉट चेंज होता है, वापस सब्सिडी पूल में इनको डाल देते हैं, तो वापस से ये सब खराब हो जाएंगी कंपनियां। अभी जो बड़ी प्रॉमिसिंग लग रही है वो एक रिस्क उसमें बहुत बड़ी है। अदरवाइज they look excellent even from here for a 30% kind of a CAGR in next few years. That's it. Thank you very much for being here.
I'd like to thank Prateek and Anuj sir, and I'll request everyone to put a round of applause for them. All your queries are welcome. We had announced कि ये सेशन में अगर कोई अपना पोर्टफोलियो लेके आता है, if that is to be reviewed, they can hand us over. हम जब भी नेक्स्ट सेशन करेंगे we'll try कि उसमें से बहुत सारी चीज़ें आपको बता सके कि कौन सी चीज़ आपके लिए सही है सही नहीं है. So if that is someone has brought that particular piece of paper with him of the portfolio can be shared. I thank everyone for coming and patient listening. I look forward to see you all again in the next session. Thank you and thank you all.